Hello, and welcome to my very special video. Today we're going to be talking about the unofficial prequel to Up. That's right, we're going to be talking about Lawnchair Larry. If you don't know who Lawnchair Larry is, I have no respect for you. I bear nothing but hate towards you. Lawnchair Larry is the man depicted in this picture here. When seeing this picture for the first time, I ran to the bathroom and shattered my toilet just out of the sheer amount of fear that I felt after seeing such intrepid behavior. And I'm sure if you're seeing that picture for the first time as well, you're probably doing the exact same thing. Anyways, now that you've destroyed your toilet, I think I can start getting into the nitty-gritty of what happened. Larry Walters was a man who always wanted to fly. Our boy Larry had been down bad for the idea of flight ever since he was 13. It was when he went to a military surplus store that he saw a bunch of weather balloons hanging from the ceiling, and then he thought, gee whiz, I sure do wish I could strap those things to my body and soar through the sky. I would assume that this is when Larry started to yearn for flight, but unfortunately though, he had poor eyesight. Because of this factor, he wasn't able to become a pilot in the US Air Force. While yes, I do feel bad for him, I'm kinda glad as well, because if we had pilots with poor eyesight, we would start having accidental 9/11s. However, despite this, in mid-1982, Larry had a revelation. He had realized that lawn chairs were a lot less dangerous than planes. That being said, he told his girlfriend about his ambitions and then they went out and they purchased 45 weather balloons. When getting the weather balloons, him and his girlfriend had forged a request from his employer to get the weather balloons, and they said that it was for a commercial. I've done a lot of research and I've tried finding out if it's illegal to purchase a weather balloon, and I can't find anything saying that it is, so I don't know why they had to forge a request from his employer. Maybe they were worried that the shop owner they purchased it from would just take one look at Larry and think, oh, yeah, I know that look. This guy's gonna tie all these things to his lawn chair. Yep, I can't sell these to him. And if there is a man who would have denied Larry access to the weather balloons, then I will personally locate him and lynch him. Anyways, on July 2nd, 1982, Larry attached 43 of the weather balloons to his lawn chair. I'm not sure what he did with the other two, but I know better than to question a man like Larry. Along with a parachute, he took a pellet gun, a radio, sandwiches, beer, and a camera. The pellet gun he took was so that he could shoot the balloons when he wanted to go down. I don't know about you, but I would be horrified if Carl from the movie Up just got out a shotgun and then climbed onto his roof and started shooting down the balloons. That little Asian kid, I think his name is Russell, he would have jumped out of he would have just jumped. He would have just jumped off the house if he saw an old man pulling out a shotgun. And I wouldn't blame him. I don't like the idea of the elderly being armed either. Anyways, so he had the gun so that he could get himself down to the ground if need be. He had his radio with him so that he could communicate with the airport as he was flying. And they didn't know that he was going to fly, by the way. He just had the radio with him so that he could rub it in their face as he was flying. He had sandwiches to satiate his hunger. He had beer with him because what else are you supposed to drink when you're in a lawn chair? And lastly, he had a camera with him so that he could make any non-believers feel stupid. With all of his materials in hand, his friends cut him loose from his Jeep, and then he started soaring. Nobody really knows for sure, but it's thought that he rose to 16,000 feet at one point. Also, at some point during his flight, two commercial airliners saw him. I like to imagine the passengers of those planes just looking out in awe at what's happening. After about 45 minutes, Larry would then shoot down some of the balloons with his gun. He would then go on to accidentally drop his gun. He dropped the only thing that was keeping him from floating into the sun, but despite all of that, he still managed to make it back down to the ground. Although on the way down, he did manage to get tangled in a power line. The power line would then break and he caused a 20-minute power outage. And despite everything, he still landed unharmed on the ground. However, he was given a $1,500 fine. He was originally going to be charged for not having this thing called a certificate of airworthiness, but the charge was then dropped because apparently it didn't apply to his class of aircraft. I don't know if I'm the only person who finds it dumb that they're referring to a lawn chair as an aircraft, but I don't know. Something about it just seems wrong to me, even though it does properly fit under the classification of aircraft. Also, when I look up aircraft definition, why is the third option a picture of a plane about to crash? Also, after landing, he spoke to the press as well, and he said that he was worried that if he didn't do this, he would end up in the funny farm. I looked it up, and apparently a funny farm is a psychiatric hospital. And I don't know why, but I just find it fascinating that he called a psychiatric hospital a funny farm. Reportedly, Larry had given his lawn chair to a random child named Jerry. 20 years later, the San Diego Air and Space Museum would then get an email from Jerry saying that he wanted to donate it to them, and in 2014 it was displayed there. Later on, it would be donated to the Smithsonian and is now on display in the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center in Virginia. For convenience, I'm just going to call it the Hazy Center because I'm not calling it the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center every single time I say it. For anyone who doesn't know, the Hazy Center has a bunch of historical things inside of it. When I say historical things, I mean things like the Enola Gay, which was the aircraft that was used to drop the bomb on Hiroshima. I'm currently in high school and I have American history, and we recently learned about the Enola Gay in history class. That means that Larry's lawn chair is in a museum next to things that we learn about in history class. So apparently it was actually a pretty big deal back in the day. In fact, if you ask your parents, they might tell you that they remember some sort of news broadcast covering the story. In fact, I'm actually going to go ask my grandma about it right now. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. My grandma said that she didn't remember anything about it. And, what? Why do I feel like I'm on the verge of tears? Is it really that heartbreaking? Well, she may not remember it. However, there are people who do remember it because we have imitators. That's right. People saw his ambition and they wanted to do what he did. So we're gonna go over the imitators. Well, we're gonna go over some of them. Only the ones that stand out to me. The first guy we're gonna talk about is called Yoshikazu Suzuki. He departed from a place called Lake Biwa on November 23rd, 1992. On November 25th, 2 days later, he was spotted by a Japanese Coast Guard aeroplane about 800 kilometers or 500 miles offshore. He was never seen again. This man disappeared for 2 days. He was then spotted flying in a lawn chair above the ocean and then was never seen again. What a Chad move. I want to be remembered like this. Next, we're going to be talking about Adelier Antonio de Carli. Adelier was a Roman Brazilian Catholic priest. I don't know why, but whenever I read something about a priest trying something interesting, it always seems to end in their death. And this story is no exception. Adelier actually flew twice rather than just one time. And instead of using weather balloons, he actually used party balloons. The first time he flew, he used 600 party balloons, and the second time, he used 1,000. The first time that Adelier flew, it was successful, nothing bad happened, but the second time, he made a mistake and he forgot to check the weather forecast. He got caught in a storm and 2 months later, the lower half of his body was found near an offshore oil platform. There were a few other imitators. A lot of them were actually successful, but those two seemed to be the only ones that went wrong, at least from what I read. But anyways, yeah, it's not very surprising. It was bound to happen at some point. In fact, the only thing that really surprises me about all of this is that it happened in California instead of happening in Florida. But anyways, if you feel as if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, any of that sort of stuff. Not gonna force you to. Not right now, anyways. Might at a later date, but not now. Now's not the time. But anyways, thank you for watching, I appreciate it, and tune in at a later date when I teach that pesky gerbil of yours how to make applesauce. Thank you and have a good day.
Meet computer.